Books, County Bytes. Yes, I have another interesting guest today for Monday. I actually connected to someone in Saskatchewan, Canada, and it was kind of by accident because we were on a group of a podcaster group. And we go in there and sometimes we ask for others to be on our show. And I found, hey, I'll put my show out there, see who wants to come on. And I found two really good guests. One of them was Anthony from the New York City Coalition for the Fitness Industry. And the other today is Billie Groom. And she has a very interesting podcast and business. So Billie Groom, wonderful personality, amazing. We called and talked to each other and we're like we've known each other for years. It was a very cool situation where we could talk just about anything. We talked about dogs, talked about our businesses. It was really a really fun conversation. But she actually has been in the business of training for about 30 years. She's worked with dogs and people and dogs really across the globe. She has an unconventional way of learning. It's a journey that has taken her to what they call UPWARD Dogology. And it's actually saved thousands of dogs and the sanity of tons of people. So it's interesting about what she does with the dogs, and it's great that she has this podcast. And I think the podcast has been on for probably about 6 months for her or so, but she does something different. She works with Cognitive Behavioural Therapy in dogs and over the age of 6 months. So this is something that she'll be talking about on the show, and we will get into the business, how the pandemic has affected us, what's changed, and how it's working up there in Canada, what's really changed up north. And she'll talk about the podcast, and we'll just general get to know each other a little bit on the podcast. We're going to make this a very friendly conversation, a fun conversation, and just kind of bring all kinds of things into it. And we will get to know Billie and learn a little bit about Saskatchewan and maybe a little bit about the Doan Gang, because there's a little story back there too. So we'll maybe get into that towards the end of the show. So everybody sit tight, and I'll be calling Billie in just a few minutes here. All right, here goes. Calling Billie.
Hello.
Hello, Billie. How are you? It's Bucks County Bytes. How are you doing today?
We're doing great over here. How are you?
I'm good. How do you read me?
I read you pretty well. I don't have my earbuds in because I can't figure out how to plug into the phone.
Well, you sound pretty good. There might be a couple breaks here and there, but it sounds clear. I remember when I called Scotland, it was pretty good on the WhatsApp. It seems like it's the way to go when you do these calls, when you do international.
Well,
Uh-oh. Did I lose you?
are you still there? Hold on.
Okay.
No, one sec. I'm gonna get my dog in. Well, David's dog in from outside.
Okay.
I just pushed my phone. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, the listeners can still hear you out there.
Oh, are they still out there? Oh, hey, listeners.
Yeah, they're there. They're gonna listen to Billie talk all about their business.
There. Well, there you go. It is a straight up. There you go.
We are straight live, and this is the real dealer. We're gonna warn people that we've got dogs.
That's kind of how I work with dogs.
Yeah,
too. It's the real deal. We're out there. We're rating the, whatever happens, because you never can control what other people's dogs do, right?
No. You're gonna hear my dog bark in the background. He had his surgery, so he's real grumpy, and you're gonna hear the bark sometimes and echo.
Our dogs had surgery at the same, well, not at the same time, but they had the same type of surgery, and they're basically the same age, just about a month apart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. One of those long, but yeah.
Oh,
so I'm glad Herc is doing well.
Oh, yeah, he's getting grumpy again, so I know he's healing. He has a t-shirt on to protect his stitches. He looks so funny with these t-shirts on, and he looks like he's ready to box somebody. He's like, all right, ready? I'm ready to fight. Come over and get me. Just come get me.
That's so funny. My dog refused to wear the well, she didn't refuse. She was fine with wearing the headgear helmet thing. She just didn't need to. She just was, no, I'd rather just not lift this thing because it doesn't bug me anymore. It bugged her before it got removed. Yeah, they're funny that way. They're all different. I had a dog once that just absolutely refused to wear a jacket in the wintertime. If you put a jacket on her, she would just stand still. Like, this was so beneath her. It just, wasn't going to happen.
Funny. Yeah. Our dogs are so amazing. They are. Well, tell the listeners, I did a little intro before I called you, but tell them who you are and what you do and where you're from.
Yeah, I know you and we can just get chatting, and we haven't known each other long and just kind of forget everything else.
That's what I told him, yeah.
My name's Billie Groom, and I'm currently in Saskatchewan, Canada, Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. So, starting to get chilly here, and I have been in the dog world for 3 decades.
Amazing.
And I'm a behaviorist. So what I do is a little bit different because I specialize in dogs over the age of 6 months. And I do behavioral rehab a lot with adopted and rescued dogs. But this wasn't intentional. So it's quite popular now to rescue dogs and to be a behaviorist. But when I started 3 decades ago, it was kind of one of those quack jobs,
Oh, so that wasn't 30 years ago. It wasn't a big thing to do adopt, and even doing that kind of training that you're doing the behavioral therapy on dogs. Yeah. That's something that was never really heard of.
Yeah, and so I didn't wake up one morning and say I want to be a behaviorist. It just it happened for a number of different reasons, mostly that I learned from just having dogs and working with dogs, and I had a daycare, and it, initially I just hopped on. Well, I guess if we went way back to the beginning, I was living in BC, and I had a couple rescue dogs, and I met a guy from Texas, and we hopped in, one of those renovated buses that's supposed to be romantic, but it really doesn't turn out that way.
Oh my gosh.
You
Texas
end up traveling
all the way to
States.
British Columbia? Oh my God.
Yeah, and then so we traveled through the States, and as we're stopping and stuff, there's dogs that are tied up, and so you start out with 2 dogs, and by the time we got to his mom's place in Texas, we were up to 12 or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
So you sort of end up with these unintentional dog rescues, which I think a lot of people who work in dog rescue out there or volunteer in dog rescue out there kind of know where I'm going with this. It's like you don't necessarily have this great plan. It just sort of happens. And so from there, he and I moved to North Carolina, and I actually got 24 acres in the middle of nowhere, where people have more guns.
Where in North Carolina did you go to? Where were you living?
Right in the tri-state where the 3 came together. There's a little tiny place called Grassy Creek. Honestly, people had more guns than teeth. It was
you
really
were out there in the really rural North Carolina.
Really rural.
Yeah.
And so somehow dogs would go out and find dogs and say, hey, you want to come live here. So you sort of learn how to work with them and what to do. And then when I came back up to Canada, he went back to Texas and I came up to Canada. And
that was the end of that?
Yeah. I'm still in touch with his mom. She's great.
You got the dogs and he went back to Texas.
Yeah. So I go tripping up to Canada with a few dogs in the truck, and so I ended up sort of starting over, and I ended up having a dog walking business, which was not popular then at all. So now but it is a great way to learn about dogs. So mine was all off leash, and I was instrumental in getting one of the first off leash dog parks in Toronto, or actually the first.
Wow.
Because I just basically went there and walked dogs, and then other people did, and then it just turned into
people didn't do that back then. People didn't have a dog walking business. That was unheard of.
No, I know. people needed it. And people asked me, and word of mouth and everything like that. And then I started taking in some rescue dogs, and there was no business, like a bank would hate me. There's like no business plan to this at all. It just worked well. It was just what people wanted and what they liked, and it was busy. And then I got more interested into the behavioral side.
How did you get interested in the behavioral side of the dogs? What brought you into that part? Like, where did you learn it? Did you go to school for that? Did you train at home?
Yeah, no, I just brought in dogs and worked with them and learned from them. And it just, I don't know, puppies were never a big thing for me, or grooming dogs. I mean, I wasn't raised with dogs. There wasn't dogs in the family. There wasn't really, I was just more intrigued by how they thought and I'm big on psychology. And I just really liked the way that they were different than puppies, and especially if they had a checkered past. And I just really got, I started to connect with some of the rescue organizations that there were a few back then. They weren't run like they are now, and they weren't they're actually still running some of the longest running rescue orgs, because now they're really popular, but back then
it wasn't popular.
It was mostly it was mostly sort of SPCA that kind of run the show. Not so much anymore, but back then, that's what. So I would bring in dogs, and Humane Society awarded me for, I just really liked the aggressive and the anxiety, and just, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I learned from the dogs.
The dogs are teaching you. So you were being taught by them, and you're able to learn, and then you were able to kind of take that and apply it to all the dogs that were coming to you. And the aggressive anxiety, separation anxiety, those kind of behaviors.
Yeah. And I was still boarding dogs and doing some amounts of walking, just because, I had to live.
Yeah.
And I was doing those ones for volunteers. So, it's kind of, probably a lot of your listeners out there can relate to sort of learning some stuff through school and some stuff hands-on, and you don't necessarily, I guess it was sort of a self-thesis in a way, because then what I did, people started asking me what I did and how I knew it, and I didn't really know.
Did you know how to answer them?
Yeah.
You're like,
I did.
You didn't want to tell them that the dogs taught you, and I learned this over the years. The dogs have taught me, and now I'm teaching all the new ones that are coming in.
Yeah. And you're just, literally the home I lived in for the most part of this was 400 square feet.
Oh my gosh.
And I had no kennels or crates. I wasn't out in the country. I had a shared driveway. My neighbors hated me.
Oh, so you weren't even out in the country. So you didn't have any property. No. You were living in 400 square feet. That's really small.
Yeah. And I never had doors, because doors were just a pain in the ass when you had a bunch of dogs. So I put saloon doors on my bathroom, so the dogs could, because anyone out there has dogs, that you never pee alone.
No, that's true. They're always in the bathroom with you.
A captive patter, right? Yeah, you're a captive patter when you're sitting on the toilet.
Right.
So
that's awesome.
Just sort of, it just kind of grew that way. And so I, newspapers would write stories about me, and there were a couple dogs that I got in that were sort of high media attention, and it sort of grew from there, and I got known for that. Then I made a really bad decision to move to the East Coast, to Halifax, which I thought would be good to sort of to sort of get it more as this is my business as opposed to my hobby or volunteer work, because once you get known for something, plus it's less expensive to live out there.
In Halifax, it's a little cheaper, right?
Yeah, from Toronto area. Yeah,
for Toronto is so expensive.
But it was difficult to geographically maneuver myself around, because there's so many bridges, which sounds, you don't really think about that. But if I'm going to people's homes and I'm working with them one-on-one, most of the people are evenings, weekends, and there's lots of traffic then.
Sure.
And the rivers, the bridges made it a bit difficult, and the economy's poor. And then everything changed when, the media came out with Cesar Millan, so that this just became a normal industry. So that was great because it normalized what I do to a certain extent, right?
Oh, yes. Everybody started realizing what it is, and then they started seeing you. It's like, oh, well, she's been around a long time, and she really knows what she's doing, because, they're probably doing some comparisons to what he was doing and what you're doing. So that made it good.
And I don't really work the way he works. I've actually never really seen one of his videos. Some of my clients show me his videos. It's more just that he made it more normal. So that was good. And then positive reinforcement training. So for any of you dog people out there, you'll know that it's the most common way of working with dogs. That hit the scene, which I don't do either. It works really well with puppies, but so I looked into it. I checked into getting those certifications, and it really didn't fall in line with what I do. And my clients, I had started teaching people at that point and working with people. So I was learning from these people what they were learning.
Okay.
And it was going. So I did have clients on the East Coast, and I wrote a book, a technical book, just because I found, as you can probably tell from this conversation, I'm not a real rule-oriented terminology person. I'm kind of just, hey.
So you wrote a book yet? See, all the top, all these dogs and everything you were doing, you were able to find time to write a book. Oh my gosh.
Well, I kind of felt like I had to, because I had to get some amount of terminology, and I had to figure out what it is I do and why it's working and why it works better with dogs over 6 months and not, it's as opposed to some of the other methods that my clients are trying, which work really well with dogs under 6 months, but then they hit this block. So I sort of did like a self-research and tried to get it a little more in my head as to what I'm doing and how to explain it, because the profession was becoming more popular and trendy. So I needed to figure out what direction I'm going to go here. And I just stuck with what I was doing. I stuck with the way I worked with dogs, which I learned is Cognitive Behavioural Therapy. I didn't use that term back then. So now it's a lot more known. So then I made a really good decision, yay me, to move to Regina, Saskatchewan, which seems weird because it's like minus 40.
Oh, it's cold there. It's so cold. I'm like, when you said Saskatchewan, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like freezing. Like, British Columbia is really cold, but it's even like are you in the higher section of Saskatchewan, or like central, or like more the lower?
More lower, a little bit further south, so it doesn't get. It is really cold, though. I mean, in our coldest of our cold, we have, 3-minute frostbite warnings to expose skin.
How? What is
and
your
it's
temperature?
Really windy.
What's your temperature?
Well, right now it's not too bad. It's like -1, but I don't know what that would be in American, but
that's
it's
brutal. It's
pretty cold. Yeah, it's pretty cold. But I mean, I've done sessions today.
Probably warm.
At the off-leash park, we just go and it's windy and everyone's bundled up and the dogs are running around, and COVID's affected me that way because I do a lot of outside work now, and that's going to have to change come the winter, where I used to go into stores or into people's homes, and stores just to get, like pet stores and stuff, to get distractions and things like that. So I'm going to have to regroup on that. But it was a good move moving here because the economy is really good and people are very family pet oriented. There's a lot of dogs here. It's easy to drive around. The rush hour here is literally about an hour, and it's not really brutal.
No. I would think it's much better there than anywhere like Toronto or Quebec or anything like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice sized city. So I rolled in here, and it grew really quickly, which is great. And veterinarian for me, and it's a good way to meet people, and it's really good. It turned out really good, and it really made me realize that what I'm doing and what Upward Dogology is all about is
That's
really
the name of your podcast, right?
Yeah, Upward Dog. So Upward stands for Urban People with Adopted and Rescued Dogs. That's what Upward stands for.
Okay. Then so everybody knows.
It should be. It could be urban people with adolescent and rambunctious dogs.
It could be, yes. It's a good
Or
way of looking
adults,
at
or
it.
rebellious. Yes, as long as they're over 6 months. It doesn't matter, right?
Well, you got some adults out there that are just over 6 months mentality-wise.
But only because that's when the cognitive side of the brain clicks in. I'm not like anti-puppy. I love puppies. But that's when the cognitive side of the brain clicks in the dog. Just like with kids, you're not going to work with a child who's 2 the same way a child who's 4, because they think differently. They process, and they're sort of starting to say, do I really want to do that? Do I have to do it? What happens if I don't do that? You know, when you get your dog with the checkered past, and if they've been living on the street. I do a lot of street dogs. I go down to.
Do you really? You get a lot of street dogs. Do you get dogs from all over, like in Canada, or do you get dogs from the States or anything, or just more of your area?
Well, my one-on-one is my area, but a lot of my clients have dogs from the Korean meat market, or I bring dogs up from Mexico, Costa Rica, and from Spain.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and so there's, you know, I have clients with dogs from Thailand and all sorts of places, and we have the reserves, northern native reserves. They you know, they're basically street dogs as well. They're community dogs, I guess. So they're fed and cared for by the community, but they've lived on their own. So if they're still alive, they're using the cognitive side of their brain. They're thinking, they're processing. So if you throw them into a house and then you try to convince them everything is okay with a treat, they just flip you the bird. Sometimes they don't. Interesting.
It is.
Yeah. It's just the way that they've already thought, the way that they're using their brain. So you have to harness that. So this is what I was learning from clients. I'm working with my clients, and I'm teaching them, and they're telling me what they were trying, and what, you know, because I was new to this city, most of them had trainers before me that use standard positive reinforcement or balance training, which is newer to hit the scene now. And I talk about all this in my podcast.
Yeah.
And my book, I actually didn't publish that other book.
Oh, you didn't publish? So the one you did publish and one you didn't, or you just didn't publish the book you wrote? I didn't
publish the technical book. I published another book last year that it won American Best Book Best Award. Yeah, it's more of a retrain your brain, don't blame yourself. The dog world's saturated with gimmicks and bullshit, so don't blame yourself if it's not working.
Oh, I can't wait to check your book out. I definitely will. I'm going to put that link in. Of course, all your stuff's going to be in there, but I have to put your book link in there, too, for people that are interested.
Well, thank you.
Oh,
Thanks.
Yeah, the book link, the podcast, your website, anything else that anything on social media, of course, your Instagram and your Facebook, all that stuff will go in there. It just makes it easier to find you.
Because my big goal now is to really... I do appreciate that, because I do want to get my methods out there. I do. I've sort of been, I've been spending the last 7 years really teaching them to clients, and then getting that feedback and learning what works and learning why it's working and studying it and really honing it. And now, now all of a sudden I'm wanting to get this awareness out there, and it's tough.
It is
the
tough.
The media world is a tough go.
Now, on your podcast, now you know that we're both in the we have Buzzsprout. So you can see all the areas where people are listening. Where are people listening to your podcast? It's dogs. So where are you seeing whether, other than Canada, are you seeing a lot of states? Are you seeing Europe? What are you seeing out there?
I'm seeing UK, Australia, the States too, a lot in Canada.
More like north of the United States, or you see southern? Which end of the U.S. are you seeing people?
Probably, I would say more west than east. West Coast. And I don't know if, I've had some guests on that run rescue organizations, and those are really cool podcasts. But there, I have guests from Thailand, guests from States and Mexico, and I have veterinarians, and veterinarians who do really cool things and different. And I have the one guy from the East Coast. he's a pilot and he flies dogs to rescue organizations.
He does the rescue, the flies? Yeah. Oh my gosh, he flies the dogs. I knew a couple guys that did that.
Yeah. So I do get the East Coast, and of course when they share, then that helps a lot. So I'm just, at this point, I'm trying to build awareness to how to work with dogs differently, and also rescue dogs in particular, but they don't have to be. Mm-hmm. So that awareness is really important to me, because on a day-to-day basis, my business does really well. I do a lot of Zoom, partly because of COVID and partly because I always have.
You're Zooming, so you're doing Zoom classes with the dogs? Or just really? That's gonna be interesting.
With the people. I train the people. Yeah. So like the whole time, years and decades I've worked with, call yourself a dog trainer, but I mean, I really train the people. And I know people hear that, but I literally have worked with dogs that I haven't met because they're so aggressive or they're so scared that I don't meet them the first session. My goal isn't for that dog to love me. My goal is to provide that client with skills so we can build up. So I can train. I've trained before COVID standing in people's front hall. I mean, wow. It's a matter of changing their mind frame and changing the way that they work with their dog and flipping over from what they are doing to what works with their dog. So I can do Zoom. I've always done it. With COVID, I'm doing it more.
You're doing it more. Everybody's doing Zoom. I know so many people Zooming with their dogs, Zooming with their wine and dogs. They just are doing so much. Whether one person wanted to Zoom walking the dog, so wanted to walk the dog, but Zoom with the dog, not Zoom with herself, but let's walk with the dog. You Zoom your dog, I'll Zoom my dog. I'm like, what? Like, you serious?
Yeah, I know. It's the sanity saver too, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
people come up with things.
Yeah, people are missing that social interaction, and so it is kind of, they even closed the dog. I don't know where you are, but here they closed the off-leash dog parks for a while when COVID started.
It's closed
and
here too.
That's like my office. It's a good office, an office that you enjoy going to, right?
I know, they closed so much. I was wondering how that affected your business because, you're working with people, you're working with dogs, and, COVID hits and everything just shut down. And still a lot of the tri-state area here, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, is still in bad shape. New York is the worst, Jersey's second, and we're like kind of right behind it because the Northeast sector really got hit hard. Then you get up into Canada, and there's sections up there that are, where they don't want us. Canada doesn't want us because of the situation. So, it's But how did it change you? Did it just cut your business down like in half or like non-existent for a while?
Well, I'd say that the biggest effect was people were concerned about their income. So it's interesting because a lot of people say to me, people are fostering and rescuing dogs because they're home and they have time. Mm-hmm. Yes. I have always volunteered a lot for rescue organizations and helped their fosters free of charge if they're having a hard go with a dog. So I don't, if people are fostering, I don't like to ding them, but on the same note, people that are adopting these dogs, if they're concerned about their income, I would have the ones that are essential services. I noticed for a while kept me going. The police and nurses, things like that. That's right.
You have the police department.
Yeah, and there's a lot of those are my clients with their own family pets. But once community word gets around and people talk, so I have a lot of doctors and nurses and but. I would say that it definitely dropped because summer's definitely my busiest time. So it dropped for sure. And it was uncertain for a while, just as it is with anybody. Mm-hmm. But on the same note, because I can do a lot of work outside in the summer, that was helpful.
Yes, it is. Yeah, you could be outside and you had to do any distancing from the people, working with the dogs and the people. So you could still be outside and do that. Hopefully that didn't affect you too much during the summer.
Yeah, I think I was probably fortunate. And I still am living, small house, little means, lucky me. I'm childless, and I don't.
That helps to be childless, even though your dogs are your kids.
And you know what it gave me time to focus on the podcast and focus on trying to build awareness. And I made some mistakes and, hired some companies. And, my goal isn't to be famous. And like I said, my business has always done well on a one-on-one level, but getting it out there to people that don't know who I am is interesting, because I'm so used to just having veterinarians refer me or clients refer me. I've never really had to advertise. And so that
you're podcasting, and that's a big advertising, that's huge, because now you've got that podcast out there available and probably on all platforms, just like, most of us have it. And, it's amazing how much you can learn by listening to that podcast. You've got an audience across the world, and that really, it grows your audience. And if you've got a book out there or two, that can really change that. And that's amazing. Like, with Amazon podcast is really big. When they got the podcast active, I'm like, oh, this is huge, because everybody loved it. And they do a nice format. They really do a nice layout of the podcast. So I think out of all of them, I think they do a real nice job. Spotify.
Interesting. Well, you know way more about this than I do.
Well, I'm sure you're on Amazon. I haven't looked for you on Amazon. I have you on my Spotify, but I will look to see if you are. Actually, I can take a look now and see.
I remember getting accepted, whether I went through and I'm so not a techie person. I'm just, as soon as somebody says, it's simple, go here and click this, I'm like,
Yeah, let me see if you are in here while we're on.
And if not, I'm pretty sure.
If not, you'll have to get it submitted, because that would be really important that you're on, because, it's Amazon.
It's Amazon.
It's Amazon.
Yeah.
There you are. You're on there. Oh, so we've got you, Billie, are on season 1. I've got you season 4. I don't think all of the. I'm going to see if all the episodes are here. Oh yeah, there they are. They got you. All of them. Yeah.
So it is an interesting podcast. I'm getting really good feedback, although I can feel the frustration in the dog training world, because they're either frustrated because I don't use standard positive reinforcement training, and they're still brainwashed and having a hard time changing, because I'm not opposed to positive reinforcement training. It works, and same with balance training, it works. But to change that mind frame, to open up the mind to a different way and accept it. But then you get your trainers that are doing that, and I really don't have my methods out there. I'm in the process of launching a course, but I don't want to launch the course until it gets more awareness.
Yeah, so get more awareness. Let me tell you one thing on your Amazon. So I have to look to see if it's on Spotify. So when you put your links in, this is a podcast. Any podcasters out there to listen to this, make sure that your links are working before, like when you do your Buzzsprout, make sure those links are working. Check it before you upload it. You can go back and edit this too. So in your podcast, if I wanted to click on something here, like your website, I can't, because it needs the always, even when you do the www, when you put the link in, make sure the HTTPS is there.
That.
Because that
do I not have that?
Yeah, that's what happened. So that part's missing for your website. Your LinkedIn, you can actually just put the actual link underneath the LinkedIn Billie Groom there. And then your Facebook, also put the website under they can see it, but if the link is there, they can go right from the podcast and just go right into the site.
You're saying that on Buzzsprout I'm not doing it correctly, or on Amazon?
When you do it on Buzzsprout, make sure when you put the links in that includes like the HTTPS. But like when I do mine, I'll put the LinkedIn, or I actually use BioLinky, which connects you to everything. And then they don't have, I just put the BioLinky site in there, which connects to like 10 or 20 sites or whatever you have. and then I'll just use the Buzzsprout. But when you have the LinkedIn, I would just put the actual site in. I mean, it says Billie Groom, so I can go into LinkedIn and put that name in. But if you have the actual connection, just put that under and there.
See, this is all the stuff I'm just learning. I'm like in my
I'm gonna
50s
do
and
a
just
video.
learning all this stuff as I felt like I'm terrible at it, and I look back at how much I've learned, and it makes me think, oh my God, how much don't I know?
Maybe I should do. Remember I said I was going to do a video and just to show you some of these things, like the editing and mixing and everything that I have to do. And sometimes it's like I have to take some sounds out. It can be really techie, and I have people that have very like garbled, tinny voice, and that's always a challenge. And like I'll be in there for a couple hours trying to edit, just to try to get it better. Like, this one today is great. There's a couple spots that's missing because it's just the interference and the connection. And I had that this morning too, but and it's expected. Sometimes you can fix those things. Like my other half came in the middle of he opens the door with a laptop in his hand and the phone goes ringing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be able to edit the phone out now. It's like, no.
Well, when we started, I was outside. I didn't realize. The way I do my podcast is I get a hold of the person and then I say, okay, 1, 2, 3, go. So, but it doesn't matter. I mean,
it's real.
People when listening to it's real. People are really good with
it's that. It's like doing a Zoom. Like, somebody's doing a Zoom with other kids running around. It's just the way we're working now. And it's, it's kind of nice to hear the reality of what we do. Yes, I am in a studio, but if somebody comes and intrudes, something happens, it's like, okay, or, I hear Hercules barking, it's going to echo down here. Even with the soundproofing, he's loud, and it echoes and vibrates through the walls, and it comes down here. So.
When I record my podcast, I don't even have a closet. I just have sort of these clothes hanging, and I separate them, and I shove myself in there and do
it makes a good studio. Clothes is a good one. I tried that when I first started. I started with Anchor, and I needed a place that was quiet because I knew Herc was going to bark. So I get myself in a closet with clothes, and when I was in the bedroom, he comes walking in and opens the door, and he's like, "What the hell are you doing in the closet? What are you doing?" I was like, I have a microphone.
They look at you like you have 3 heads. They kind of stop.
I was like, well, I thought this would work.
And they stop breathing, and it's like they're trying to process this. And my dog's bed is right beside it, so I just kind of throw my dog's bed on there. So I'm actually sitting on my dog's bed in the bottom of this kind of clothing that I never wear. I mean, I wear the same crap every day, right? Because it's COVID, and because my clients don't care what I wear to dog training. I could show up in a hot air balloon and bring a clown out. They don't care, right?
As long as you're there.
In my mind.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't even wear half these clothes, and so I'm sitting on the dog bed in the bottom of the closet. But
it sounds like something I do too. Like last night, he's barking at 2 a.m. I gotta go out. It's like, all right, because you gotta have a harness on the back end. I can't put the harness in the front. Gotta walk him out with a back harness. It's like it's so difficult to get him in and out. It's like, and then he doesn't want me to leave, so I crawl in his bed. He's on the floor. I got a pillow, and I'm laying in the dog bed while I hang out with him, so he goes back to sleep, which was until 6 o'clock this morning. So our dog worlds. Dog life.
Yeah. There's one guy on Instagram. I'm sure there's hundreds on Instagram, but there's one I follow. I think it's Westitude something, and he's got the greatest comic strips. I mean, it's all dog related, and they're just so funny.
I'll have to find that one.
I should find it and let you know what it is. But he's just so funny. The 9 million dogs on the bed, which is great.
That's funny.
Everything I say with my clients is opposite that they read or heard from their last trainer or online. It's like, I'm great with tug of war. I'm great with dogs being on the bed. I'm like, lose the rules. You just need calm manageability. The whole world's gone crazy with uptightness in the dog world. And it's just become, all we need to do is use their brain, get calm manageability, work with them in a way that makes sense to them, restricting them from the bed. So I love this guy's stuff because it's just so real. It is how people are.
The way I love it. I mean, dogs in the bed. I mean, I said, well, you call it furniture. It's called furniture. It's called furniture for a reason. Furniture. Okay,
Furniture.
there's fur all over the, you come to my house. Okay, there is dog hair, and you have to accept it. It could get in your food. It could get in your glass. It's dog hair. Even doesn't matter how much you clean, it's there.
It is, and you can't be uptight about it. Yeah,
you can't. Yep. You can't get upset about it. I chose my life around dogs since I've been 3. I've had a dog my whole life, always.
Good for you.
Never been without one, and the most I've had is 3. I had English Labs. I had Xena, Thor, and then Thor passed away, and then I ended up getting Sam and Hercules. So, and then I had the 3 for a while, and they kept Xena going because she was about 12 and a half. She was fantastic. She was a warrior. She was amazing. She'd be on the tractor, and you go through the field, and then she'd see a groundhog. She'd jump off the tractor and go after the groundhog. She was just an amazing dog. So strong.
That's so cool.
So strong.
Yeah, that's a great dog.
And the other 2 kept her going, towards the end. It breaks your heart when they get to that point, because they are your family. They are your life.
Yeah, you really do. You walk in circles. It's like you don't know what to do with yourself. I guess, the same as a family member, Dawn. Well, it is a family member, Dawn.
It is a family member, yeah.
And I love getting the old dogs. I brought up so many unintentional, but one from Mexico that had 2 weeks to live. She had a really big tumor. So I brought her up, and it wasn't contagious. I mean, she still got all her paperwork. She was just old and sick. But, worked with her at the vet here, and I got 9 months out of her. But I love those old. I love getting the one I have now. I went down to Costa Rica at one point and brought up 5 dogs, and they're all homed in Canada.
Wow.
The one I kept, she's old, and she's now blind. And so, these dogs, I don't have them long, but they are just so great.
They teach you, each one teaches you lessons, and you learn from them, and they learn from you. And they expect that they're there, and they want that care, but they give you care in return. So it's an amazing feeling, and I don't know what it would be like without one. I've never been to that point. I've always had a dog in my life. So even at the farm, I've had a couple different adoptee dogs. I helped other dogs out. Of course, they got sick and then ended up not being, not around too long, but it's tough. It's really tough when they get old and they're not doing well. But we do what we can for them, physically, financially. I mean, if I wasn't as strong as I was right now, I wouldn't be able to carry 100 pounds in and out of the house. Not everybody can do that. And
not everybody.
No.
Yeah. Well, good for you. And they know too. They know when you're picking them up for a reason, or you're doing, they're very, very smart. And I think, I know I keep getting back to this, but I just find so many of the methods and suggestions and advice, and it's people that are trying hard and they're good and there's nothing wrong with them, but they really underestimate the ability for dogs to process and think cognitively and work things through. And they just a lot of convincing, and I don't know.
There's so much you can teach people, and I'm really going to be after your podcast because I want to hear, and I really want to get that book. So I'm so happy that we were able to connect and meet and tell us something that I've never realized that was out there.
Well, thank you. You're the one who reached out, and thanks to Buzzsprout Community, where we met.
Yeah, it's a great community. There's 15,000 people in there right now.
Yeah,
it's
I think they just posted that. Yeah, so those community groups are really big now, and I'm not really
so
one
big.
Community groups. I'm not a real necessarily always plays well with others, but I think I'm just used to that from my profession, being very loner that way. And so it was really nice to have people reach out and for you to make this connection, and it was really good. And then we had the connection with the Doan.
Oh yeah, so that was interesting. We started talking. It's I told you about the Doan show, the Doan Gang, and it was interesting because this is going back a couple hundred years ago. I don't know if you listened to that podcast yet, but one of them escaped into Canada. And there's a lot of Doans running in Canada. The family, it's very extensive in Canada. And, one of the things that I just learned, and I know Melissa and Mark, the producers and the manager of that show, the TV series.
That were on.
They were on the show, and I told them about you a little bit, and they're like, oh my gosh, how is that possible? And she's like, did you know the story about the birch trees? I'm like, I had never heard this before. And then the Doan that escaped to Canada, apparently his stick was birch, and this is a birch that never grew in Canada ever back then. So he took that birch, and apparently he buried it somewhere. Well, they found out scientifically, if it's in the ground for so long, it does create, I don't know what comes out of the tree, whatever it was, that part of the tree that he made the stick. It grew birch trees. And in Saskatchewan area.
And also Ontario.
In Ontario.
Yeah, I grew up on Birch Heights Drive.
Whatever it was. Yeah. Those birch trees that were native to only Bucks County, believe it or not. In Bucks County, they were here. He took it up there, and they're in Canada. And this is 200 years later. Yeah. You've got a lot of birch trees.
Yeah, and I think I a 3-day road trip specifically north of here to see where the prairies turns into pines and birch and different trees. It's not prairie. I mean, we have trees on the prairies here, but a lot of them are planted. I mean, they're not natural. But when you go up there, you can tell that they're hundreds of years old, and I think that just stems right from that story.
It's just amazing. I never realized how extensive the Doan family was. I was driving from Pennsylvania out to Wyoming just a little while ago, and I passed something called Doan University. I'm like, what is that? Well, Melissa had called me, and she's like, talking about this Doan University. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just drove past this place. And she's like, no, you're kidding, right? I'm like, no. And then she told me the history behind that. So it is a very interesting family. And they were all, outlaws, cowboys. They considered them Plumstead cowboys here in Plumsteadville Township in Bucks County. And apparently this is going back, back in the day of the Revolutionary War. They didn't have cowboys out west. So the story goes that the writers here, back in the 1700s, when they went west, they took that story of these cowboys that were here, the ones that were outlaws, and ran and stole. They stole horses, they stole jewelry, they stole coins, everything, and they took it out west. And then we started having cowboys out there soon after they took the stories out there to the west.
That's a great story.
So,
and it's funny because I think I was telling you, my cousin, who's unfortunately not my blood cousin, but he's like my brother and like my cousin, and we've recently, over the past less than a decade, become a lot closer just from finding each other. But he's a Doan. And he's definitely a rebel, and we get together.
That's
and
interesting.
All shit flies. Like, we have a great time. He's in Toronto, and so for me to fly into Toronto and get together with him, it's just craziness, and we just have the great. So the whole thing on the Doans being rebellious and this type of thing, I love it, because
you got to tell him about. You have to have him listen to that podcast, because
he's gonna love it.
It's a TV series coming out. I don't know the dates yet. He said we're going to do another podcast when he's getting ready to actually. It's going to be live when it comes out on the television series. I don't know what station it's going to be on, but it will probably be available to, anybody who wants to watch it. But it's going to be interesting. Like, if you would see the trailer, if you go on YouTube and see the trailer to this America's Original Outlaws, it's very interesting. It's really about the history, about the Doan boys. And I live right down the street from where they're buried, so it's a crazy thing that I started meeting all these people like are connected to the Doans. So.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be really great. If it weren't for COVID, I would fly to Toronto and watch it with my cousin Corey, because that would just be, the best. Or come down and watch it with you.
That would be
cool.
Well, you guys are going to have to Zoom each other. You can Zoom each other and watch it when it actually comes out. You can just Zoom and watch together that way.
How fantastic. Yeah, what a great, I guess it was the release of it, or the filming of it, I guess, was put on hold a bit because of COVID.
Yeah, so what happened was they were in the middle of filming. Of course, COVID hit, because they were going heavy, and March hits, and I had to stop. And, they're just getting back into it now that they're going to try and get finish up the series and get it out there. It's exciting. It's been in the make for a long time. And he says his whole life, really. Because he started doing the research when he was a kid. He was into it way back. And, and then Melissa was on, and she's actually a Doan.
She's a Doan, yeah.
She's a Doan. So it's very, very informative and very interesting to hear about the stories. And the caves are here. And apparently there is a lot of, not jewelry, but silver coins, because they had robbed the Newtown Bank at the time, which is going 200 years ago. They stole 300,000 or more worth of coin, and they buried it, and it still has never been found. And apparently it's here somewhere. I start digging.
That's when you need dogs that dig.
That's where you do. You need dogs for that, because he said, Mark was saying, he goes, he'd go out. This is when he was a kid. He'd, be out there in these fields, and there's holes all over the fields because people were digging they were looking for it. They've never found it.
Yeah.
That's 40 years ago.
Well, that's really cool. Yeah, I don't think the intrigue of buried treasure will ever go away. Everybody loves that. It's really, really, really intriguing.
You need to train your dogs to search for jewelry. And
there's probably people listening to this going, "I'll give you my dog."
Train my dog.
There's holes all over my backyard. All my dog does is dig.
You train your dog to go find it. It'll be a lot easier.
Your email's going to start going crazy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I had promoted that one particular heavily, and that ended up getting 5.1 thousand hits.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I was surprised too. They don't even know that. If they listen to this, they'll see. They'll be like, what? Because if I heavily promo something, we really want to push it, we can make it hit, over thousands of people seeing it.
Amazing. You're amazing at this.
It's fun.
I have no idea. Yeah.
What else am I going to do for a pandemic? I got to come up with a podcast. That's fun. I get to talk to everybody all over the world. I miss the people.
Yeah, you're amazing. Yeah, that is what I liked about doing the, obviously the main goal with that season 4 where I interviewed the rescues is to promote them, and to basically the whole podcast is just, here's your reality check on the dog world. Here's your, it's fun. There's some funny moments. It's all genuine and true and real, and it is what it is. But I do like season 4 because I do get to talk to rescue orgs all over the world.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's really neat. Yeah,
that's what I love about it. You connect with all the people, in the dog world. I connect with people in all businesses and try to help them. Everybody's going through a rough time. Well, why not talk to people and talk to about their business, and then put it out there? That's I love doing it.
Yeah, it's good fun for you. And you're amazing at it. You're totally amazing at it.
I've always been a techie person. I was a techie geek person. Even though I had a horse farm, 30 horses, dogs, and I come from a farm background, I still ended up being a techie person. I have no idea how that works. I don't.
Well, I guess it's kind of like myself, not really coming from an animal background.
Yeah.
Actually, having said that, when I was really young, we did have a lot of that. But yeah, it just fell into place. And I think, there were obviously times in my long career learning journey where I thought, oh, should I do something different but I just kept coming back to it because my clients were happy. When clients keep being happy, it's hard to, you get, it's even though when people are saying, no, you can't do it the way you do it, and no, you can't, my business model has always been different. The way I work with dogs is different. I'm not part of little dog groups and everything. And sometimes it gets really weighing on you, but on the same note, if if it's what you do and what you're good at and you enjoy it, then
just go with it.
Next thing you know, 30 years later.
Yeah, you've been in a very long time, and there you are, 30 years later. You've got a great business. You've got, the book. You've got the podcast. And give it the podcast. You know what? You start taking it longer and longer, you'll have more and more people. And next thing you know, it will grow. You'll have lots of people following you. It doesn't take long.
For me, it's just because it saves dogs' lives. Like Upward Dogology saves dogs' lives because people don't know what to do once. And these are good people. Like I said, I have really good clients. They really care about their dogs. They've either adopted their dog or they've had it for life. Like I said, I have veterinarians for clients. I mean, they love their dog, but when their dog's aggressive, or they don't know what to do, or they've had 3-4 trainers and it's not working, it's not the people's fault, but they might feel like they have to put their dog down or rehome their dog or put the dog in the system. And it's not their fault.
You're saving their lives.
And I'm thinking, like, if that's happening every single day here in Regina, and I'm having, in this little small city of Regina, I have full time, well, until COVID, but, for years, full time, then how much is that happening out there? How much is that happening out there where people are being told? My podcast actually coming out tomorrow is one of my clients who was told by her veterinarian and 2 trainers before me, you got to put this dog down. So if that's happening to me all the time with all my clients, how much is it really happening out there?
So it's part happening of me all over the world.
Yeah. And it just eats me. It grinds my gears.
Well, you're doing the right thing. You're doing a fantastic job of it. Just keep it up.
I'd like to
Don't
get it out there faster, but thanks.
One of
I don't
these
know
days,
if I have a choice.
when this COVID stuff is over, I will take a visit. I will take a flight up to Canada.
Yay!
And come see you. I would love to see the dogs. I'd love to see what you do. That's really what would be cool.
Yeah, you can come to the city where you can watch your dog run away for 5 days straight. It's so flat.
That would be, I'd love to come see it. I've never been to that part of Canada.
It's really flat.
I'd love to, definitely.
It's beautiful. Yeah, and I'd love to take a visit to where you are.
Yeah, you can come down here and come see the Doan boys in there. Come see the taverns where they visited. You can see the watering holes they had. We'll get in trouble down here in Bucks County. It's a rural area.
The Doan boys. It's always easy to blame people that are dead, right?
That's right. Well, they always said, don't catch a Doan dead or alive, not alive or dead. It's the dead or alive because they'll haunt you even when they're gone.
Oh, no. Okay, well, then if we're going to do
it is Halloween. It's Halloween week. You have to get, it's kind of, I have to do my Halloween stories tomorrow. I got to do another Halloween show, so tell creepy stories from the farm, things that happened that were not normal. A lot of weird stuff happened down there. It was very scary. So
I bet. I look forward to that. That'll be a good one. Yeah, I love this time. Look forward to that.
Well, you enjoy the rest of what time is it there? What,
Thank you
2:30? What time is it? 3 o'clock there? What time is it?
Yeah, we're just going on 3 o'clock here. Yeah.
Well, you have a
thank you.
great day. Afternoon, and
you too.
We'll talk soon. I'll let you know when this is done. You'll get a soundbite, and I'll let you know when everything goes up on social media.
Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much, Martha. Take care and have fun with everything that you do. We'll keep in touch.
Yes, please too. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Pass to her.
You too.
Bye.
Take care. Oh, how cool was that? Oh my gosh. So, getting to talk to Billie from Saskatchewan, Canada, and learning all about her dog business and learning about the environment there, and just learning about so many different things, and hearing about the training. It's a very unique training, and she's saving all those dogs' lives and helping the people that are learning how to train their dogs. It is really interesting, and I can't wait to read her book. And I cannot wait to listen to more of her podcasts. I will make sure that all her links are in there, of course, as always. And I would love to make her YouTube. I'm hoping to get everything done within the next couple of days. I do have Pieds of Pink and then Billie's. I also have Dr. Dane Donahue's to do, and Grunge Puppy still needs to be done. So I've got a few YouTubes to finish up this week and get those up and live. And then I should try to get my Halloween stories within the next couple days, and those will be short. Those won't be too long. So probably about 15-minute stories the next couple days. Halloween is on the 31st, and make sure that you're all going to stay safe and that those creepy witches and ghouls come and get you. Everybody have a great afternoon, and we will be talking soon. This is Bucks County Bytes, over and out.